Welcome everyone to our first, or should I say, panel discussion, and we're talking about decoding the state of consumer and interactive marketing in the post-COVID scenario. We have with us an amazing panel. You might be hearing some of these people while we were having a casual conversation. Let's get started very quickly. First of all, very much for being here. This is, I'm sure you've taken out time from your busy schedules for this, but we'd love to hear some insights from you. I'm just going to do a very introduction for the panelists first, and then we're going to move forward from there. We have with us, first of all, Naureen Hyat. She's the co-founder of Tez Financial Services. And Tez is a micro-lending platform that she's going to tell us a lot more about. It's the first fully digital microfinance institution. They provide frictionless financial access to the unbanked population via a smartphone application. She's also a member of the CFA community and studied inclusive finance at the Harvard Business School, and lends her insight into global insights in financial inclusion. Naureen has been featured in Forbes and Women in FinTech Power List, and has been published in multiple global publications, and as a list of many game changers around the world. Next up is Muneeb Maayr. He's the founder of Bikeia, the largest motorbike serving on-demand transport, logistics, and payments company in Pakistan. Muneeb is a graduate from University of Virginia and an investment banking specialist at Bear Stearns in New York. He's also led a 600-person back office at Essa Financial, which got acquired by Standard & Poor's. Prior to Bikeia, Muneeb was co-founder and CEO at Taraz, which is the leading Pakistani e-commerce platform, which was acquired by Alibaba recently. We also have with us Mohsin Qureshi. He's the chief operating officer of Cheetah. Mohsin used to be the former commercial director at Food Panda and was also one of the founding members at Eatoy, which was later acquired by Food Panda. He joined Cheetah in October 2019, and business has grown at over 10x since then, and has about 12 to 15 years experience in the industry. Mohsin loves to do a lot of stuff at Cheetah and is often sometimes seen handling customer support, also being a rider to do personal deliveries, and often also just jump into various departments to take care of what they do. We also have with us Ahmed Rauf. Ahmed is probably the youngest of the lot, probably. He's a graduate at IOBM, and is co-founder at Telemart. Telemart to be the second largest e-commerce player in Pakistan and the only one with an omni-channel presence with retail and franchises across Pakistan. He's the only Pakistani entrepreneur to win 8 global awards at the age of 28 and has been a jury member for about 12 global awards. Also selected as a rising star by World Retail Congress and was featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2019. From WebEngage, we have Apoorv Sood. Apoorv is vice president at WebEngage and looks after sales, strategy, expansion, and channel partnerships globally. He has a strong background with software, SaaS services, advertising, and digital media, and focused predominantly in revenue expansion and go-to-market strategy. Apoorv has a bachelor's in business administration and an MBA in marketing and international business. He loves volunteering and supporting causes in the spaces of animal education and children environment. He's also an avid mountain climber and scuba diver. So I don't know how you find time for all of that. A bit about myself at the end. My name is Imtiaz. I run a MarTech company in Karachi called Orange Fox. We work with a bunch of e-commerce digital businesses in Pakistan. And I have about 15 years of marketing and technology-based businesses background, and built a couple of financial services, worked in e-commerce and a couple of other spaces. I'll be host today, and we're going to jump off with this discussion with the first question. The first question goes out to everyone, one by one. We'll go in sequence. Now, a lot of people, you panelists, right? A lot of people know a lot of stuff about your businesses. Some of them may have heard of, and there may be some aspects of your business that not many people may be knowing about. And that's what I'd like to know first. So tell us very quickly about your business in general, but also the stuff that, what you do versus what people think you do. A very quick 1-minute run through on this, and then we're going to go to the more deeper questions after this. Naureen, why don't you start first?
Yeah. Well, I think Imtiaz, you did a great job at summarizing what TAZE does. I'm just going to add on a little to that. So technically, we're not only a lending platform; we are a neobank, which means that we also are providing other financial services in addition to credit, which includes insurance, savings, and investments via the platform. Uh, and I think this goes out to most, founders of companies. We we're supposed to be masters at everything that we do within the company, whatever department that might be. And I'm sure the entrepreneurs over here can really relate to it. But within this, my focus really has been more so around partnerships, the investors facing front, many a times products as well. And I think, let's not forget, being a financial institution, a lot of other things they're drawn into, such as compliance, regulatory requirements. So I think I'm just shuffling between a lot of those and a lot of firefighting also, particularly with the compliance and regulatory front. So I think it's a mixture of a lot of those things. And I just, I think it's being an entrepreneur is a very fabricated title. It asks for much more than just starting a company, and I'm sure everyone can relate to that. So yeah, that's a very quickly a summary of what I do. It's practically trying to play my role in every aspect of the company.
Great. Muneeb?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Imtiaz. So my name is Muneeb Maayr. I'm founder at Bikea, and the Bikea is a network of motorbikes, mostly in Karachi, and we've got some presence in the capital, Islamabad, and its territory, and then also Lahore somewhat. But essentially, we provide transport services, so sort of like an Uber on motorbikes. Um, but in addition to that, we also layer on delivery services. Now, those delivery services could be sending a package, or sending an envelope, or sending goods for distribution. Now, if you are in the subcontinent, or for that matter, if you're in Saudi Arabia or Russia, for that matter, um, you know, if you're doing logistics, you're collecting money. And if you're collecting money, that means you're in the payments business. So we're also in the payments business, and we're trying to expand into that category as well. Uh, we as far as basically my own journey is concerned, um, you know, I've been wearing different hats. But if you ask me what I enjoy the most, I enjoy building the product. Um, I, that's where I feel my passion is, and that's where I've been trying to also steer the product um, and the business forward as well.
Um, just a second. If we can also have Ahmed. Ahmed, could you just walk us through your experience and your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm on now. So Telemart is basically one of the biggest e-commerce companies in Pakistan. And people don't know much about Telemart Retail, which is the second largest section of ours. And we are one of the few organized retailers in the country who are selling technological products to the retail side. The reason why Telemart has always opted or shifted towards retail is Pakistan has a retail market of 99.5%. Only 5% of the total retail sales in Pakistan is made online. And fighting for that 0.5%, and where we have a bit of a large competition as well, and then spending more and more of money on the e-commerce side. So we thought of catering, or we thought of taking the retail along with us. And that helps us to digitally enabling the customers across Pakistan. So we have outlets in Peshawar, we have Sahiwal, we have Lahore, we have Karachi, Islamabad, and even in Pindi. So now we are expanding more towards the retail side. We have also partnered up with the major telcos of the country now, and we are also exploring opportunities with other telcos as well, where we are having a full-size retail outlets within the telcos space. So every other telco wants to sell mobile phones on their shelves. and they don't want to carry inventory. So we are the resort for them. So we are acting as a partner for them and branding their spaces, using them as our outlets. So retail is a big wing that people don't understand what Telemart is doing about. So because e-commerce is the most fancy thing you see on the social media. Secondly, we are the third largest global manufacturer of gold-plated products in the world, and we make nearly everything out of gold, whether it be a phone or a laptop or even a dustbin. So we have 2,500 products in that category where we provide complete certification of the products. So that is something that people don't know much about us, and we are selling these products globally, not only in Pakistan. We are selling the product globally.
That's quite interesting. So you guys manufacture gold-plated coverings and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. I knew you guys sell them. I just didn't know you guys manufacture them. Okay, Mohsin, over to you.
Okay, so thank you, Imtiaz, for the introduction. We are a now commerce, or we call it a quick commerce marketplace in Pakistan. A lot of people know us as a Lahore brand, but we are present in 11 cities of Pakistan, and we have expanded these 11 cities over the past 4 months. We plan to we actually had a plan to launch the quick commerce categories, especially with pharma and grocery, by June. But having this lockdown stuff, we had to launch a bit earlier. Now we're delivering grocery, we're delivering medicine in 30 minutes to the consumer from their local neighborhood store. So at the moment, Cheetah have food. Then we have a home-based special category called Tiffin, where you get a home-based meal every day. Then we have grocery, and then the recently launched vertical is pharma. So these are our verticals. We're expanding into some more verticals, and Cheetah tends to be a super app for Pakistani, where every Pakistani can come and use the product. We're planning to have some more verticals within our health, within our pharma category. We're planning to launch some everyday essentials, like you can order milk, you can order bread every day from Cheetah at a very affordable price from a local neighborhood store. So this is whole about Cheetah. And so I only changed my seat, as you mentioned in the introduction, and try to support the team as much as I can. So that's what I do at Cheetah, and the rest, we're moving towards the quick commerce, and we'll be only Pakistani company who'll be doing quick commerce in the short period of time.
Great, that sounds, thank you very much for that. Apoorv, a bit more from you. We haven't heard from you in a while. So, yeah, we'd love to know what people
Super,
think you guys do.
super. Thank you. I think Imtiaz, thank you, Ahmed, Muneeb, Maureen, and Mohsin again from WebEngage's side for joining in and enlightening the people around how and what your businesses do. Broadly, I think I'll quickly stress on what WebEngage does. We're a marketing automation platform. We help you engage, retain, and grow your customers very simply. Once you have anybody coming into your website or an app, our job of making sure how we can talk to them. You can't imagine a store without people having conversation with you, right? You need store managers, you need people inside. Similarly, your apps or your websites needs engagement. They want to know how to use your platform, how to avail your services, support. So we're that platform that help you do that, right? And how do we do that? I'll highlight a couple of things that we essentially do. We have analytics, pre-facto, post-facto, analytics to help you make revised decisions. We help you segment similar behaving customers. We help you personalize communication, and we help you trigger this automatically across about 8-9 channels like web, push notifications on app, email, SMSs, in-app communication, Instagram, Facebook, these are the social channels of today and beyond, vice, and so on and so forth, and WhatsApp as well. So that's what we are as a platform, and that's what we essentially do. We do this in about 52 odd countries across 5 continents. We do this for a lot of businesses like EdTech, FinTech, BFSI, retail, e-commerce, so pretty much any business that is online has an online and offline omni-channel or D2C sort of extensions. We are a natural fit. We do close to about, at a scale, we do close to about 10 to 20 billion messaging in a month. Across channels, we do somewhere close to about, we process as high as about 70, 80 billion data points in a month. So we're very proud of where we are, where we're going. I think Mohsin and his team use us as a platform, I think, and we're trying to do more in Pakistan, and we are Imtiaz and our partners of how we can help businesses grow online. That's, I think, a larger piece and how we can support that. So thank you so much, Imtiaz. I think over to you for the rest of the things.
Great. So the next question is, let's start with what's happened, right? So in March, somewhere in March, some things in China went wrong a while back. But sometime in March, all of us came into a certain situation where everything kind of got stuck in the tracks. So where were you, and with respect to your business, where exactly were you in your vertical, in your business specifically? Because considering the fact that we built this panel based on different verticals, right? Been very cognizant of the fact. With respect to your vertical, where was your vertical, and where were you when everything just came to a halt? Everything, the brakes were pulled and everything just froze in its tracks. This was, I think, mid of March, right? So the last week of March, if I'm not mistaken. So what was happening at your end? For just to get a picture with respect to your business and also with respect to your vertical in general. We're going to start this one with Muneeb first. Also, just before you start, Muneeb, all the panelists, everyone who's attending, feel free to ask questions. However, please put them in the Q&A box so that we can just filter through them and then just answer them maybe after this, some of the key questions are answered. We'd love to hear from you, your questions, and over to you, Muneeb.
Yeah, so I think as far as we're concerned, we're primarily in the transport space, right? Because most of our business is a bike taxi business, right? So I think by the end of February, we were coming to perhaps the tail end of the winter rains. And so we were actually expecting March to be our best month of the year. Why? Because it's spring, the weather's beautiful, and there's a higher propensity for people who would otherwise not move on a motorbike to actually move in March. While simultaneously, we were also expecting to close our financing round, our Series B financing round in April or May. So we got hit by surprise. This was supposed to be our best month, and then the month initially started off not as badly as it evolved towards the tail end, and that's mostly because the lockdown actually happened on the 24th, but schools and government offices started to shut down towards the middle of the month. Schools actually shut down the first week of the month. So yeah, I mean, we were absolutely blown away. This was not expected and couldn't have been a worse time for us.
Okay, and basically everything froze. I mean, the moment the but you were hit the moment schools shut down and offices started shutting down, you were affected at that point in time. Is that correct to understand?
Yeah, I mean, so you have to be cognizant, right? So when you do a lockdown, what are the first things that are going to happen? People are going to stop moving, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're doing like tens of thousands of basically trips in a day, right? Then even like schools shutting down or universities shutting down, suddenly you've lost like 10%, right? And so that was a big shock. Like, how did we lose 10% of our growth, or for that matter, even our daily trips, right? And then it became 10%, then it went up to 15%, and then towards the middle of the month, we were edging closer to 20%. And then by the time the lockdown happened, then then clearly everything came to a standstill. And just for context, I mean, most of our business is a taxi business, and even our delivery business is not delivery for the rich, right? We're not in that business. We don't. That business isn't very big for us, right? Delivering food is not. It's a luxury for the rich, right? Or the upper middle class. Like, we primarily moved delivery samples from wholesale markets. So when the markets or the wholesale markets shut down, when there's no trade between them and the factories and industries, our business goes to a standstill. So we were even severely impacted on the delivery side of the business as well.
Okay, so, and also great. Okay, so this is a massive, it's stopping everything in the tracks. I think on a similar line, Mohsin, you must have been facing something similar, considering you're also significantly transport led, right? So how did everything else pan out, and how did you start making sense of things?
So technically, March was a disaster for us. So we started our business in January. We were growing 100% month over month, and the same was the trend in the first 15 days or 20 days of March. And we had some case studies from China. We had some case studies from other parts of the world. The restaurants, if ever the lockdown will happen in Pakistan, the restaurants will still open, and food was most part of our business. And we saw that there was no clarity from the government whether the restaurants are opening, whether the restaurants are shutting down, and it was a whole mess. So there was a consumer demand, but there were a lot of rejections from the restaurant side, and we were unable to fulfill the orders. And eventually we had to stop our business as well. We had to stop our services as well for 2-3 days. And eventually, when we came to know that this restaurant is open today, we keep on opening and closing the restaurants. The same happened with Karachi. So Karachi primarily is not a big market for us, but still Karachi was fully locked down. There was no business in Lahore. In other parts of the country, there was a lot of confusion. So we saw riders being caught by the police, and then we had to request for them. The restaurant staff was caught by the police. So there was actually the problem. The problem was we were not clear what's going to happen, and in the meantime we had to reject a lot of orders from the customers. So which is actually draining down the customer experience. He's expecting something from us, but we're not delivering to them.
So stemming from all the businesses that were shut down and affected, naturally, a lot of people, a lot of employees were affected. A lot of micro businesses were also affected. Naureen, how does that affected your customer base, and where were you, and what has happened with your situation?
It was a bit of a mixed bag for us. Similar to Muneeb, we were also in the middle of raising a funding round. Not the best time to be raising a funding round or closing one. But I think if I am to talk about the business side of things, we were actually on a stage to start scaling up our lending even more, because we were going live with a few partnerships with some banks. And ever since, the lockdowns happened, two things happened. One on the disbursement side and the other one on the recovery side. On the disbursement side, of course, our customers were hard hit because the income generation capacities were worst hit. A lot of them probably lost their jobs. A lot of them were daily wagers who weren't earning any income stream during that time. So what we had to do on that front was, it was obvious, we can only take a certain amount of credit risk, and we had to mitigate that default coming in. So we had to halt our disbursements, our lending for a bit. In terms of the recovery side, Thales is a wallet agnostic platform, which means that we've integrated with all the wallet providers in Pakistan. So the last piece is the customers cashing out from the agent networks. And majority of the people don't really conduct digital transactions, they ultimately cash out. So with the agent transfers, or with the agents being locked down, and we see initially, Sindh was worse hit than Punjab, but about 50% of the merchant network was closed down. So it wasn't going to only impact disbursement, it was also repayments from those ends, because people could not go to these agents to make those repayments. So initially, yes, we were hit because of the lockdown of these agents. But I think to our surprise, we did have recoveries coming in, which was actually it was refreshing to see and hear, the differences that we heard from other non-digital microfinance institutions that we've been speaking to. Even now, we see that people have been repaying, and the vintage of our recoveries has been pretty. It's been definitely it's been hit, but it's still very promising because we have recovery still coming in. Now, since we stopped consumer lending for a while, what we did was, and we see it as a blessing in disguise in a lot of ways, we started focusing on our other products within the neobank vision. So, that includes insurance, for example. So we expedited our development on that front. I know what we feel, this is a time when people need to see value within what you're providing. So even though, we couldn't really service their lending needs, we can still serve their other financial needs, one of which is insurance, and the most needed right now because of, the COVID crisis here. So we will be going live with the insurance vertical within the early June. So that's something, we've done. In addition to that, we also started focusing more on our savings piece. So there's a fractional gold product that we've been working on. And, with the current environment, gold is going to be probably one of the best inflation hedges right now. So this is something that we've also pushed down the pipeline. And, I think these two aspects will definitely keep our customers engaged, even though we will not be lending to the wider masses. We've tightened our credit underwriting, rules here. But we still feel those other products will be working. Another thing we did was we pivoted from consumer lending more so to what we feel would be lesser risky working capital lending. So we already had some partnerships ongoing, which came live sooner. So for example, with Uber, we will be going live with one of, for working capital, Uber delivery, we'll be going live with lending to their partner drivers. But also we've been in talks with some merchant networks whereby we'll be providing loans, working capital loans to their merchant networks as well. So I think in a way that's panned out well for us. So we took those steps fairly fast. And I think one initial thing that, we initially never thought that we'd be getting into was using our disbursement platform for something other than just lending. So what we started doing was we started offering, and this was actually really out of an actual innate need to serve people. So we started offering a platform for donations. And we partnered with the Zaman Foundation, which started an initiative by the name of Sabsat. And what we did was we started offering them a platform to disperse donations all across Pakistan. So that's been something that, we feel that we've contributed toward this crisis in a responsible manner. So lots of things happened for us. And I think in a lot of ways, a blessing in disguise, in a lot of ways, it helped us, refocus. And particularly, for most fintechs, most of our activities are transaction based. And I think most of us over here would understand that we always focus on scaling up. Scaling down is something we usually don't think of. So, with all our costs, particularly the variable costs, be it hosting, particularly in Pakistan, these things become expensive because we are not geared, to scale down, especially to crises like these. So I think that also helped us really focus a lot on cost rationalization and think more on aligning our infrastructure to grow in a more responsible and financially sustainable manner. So I think those were things that we've been doing and are still, working towards.
Okay, so some good things, some bad things. I think it stopped you in your tracks while you're doing your core business, and then you pivoted towards others. So that's a great, very quick pivot on that front. Ahmed, it's your turn.
So we had a campaign lined up in March, by the end of March, I guess, 21st to 27th of March. That was our Pakistan Day sale. And this was the first time that we were starting a new thing, a new delivery standard for us, that was Telemart Express, where we were delivering products within 24 hours in Karachi from where we operate, and within 48 hours across Pakistan. So we had a campaign lined up, we have everything in place, but then we got hit with the COVID-19 situation, where we had a lockdown announcement from 23rd of March. So it was a blessing in disguise for us. The reason why I say this is, for express delivery, we nearly had everything kept in our warehouses. So when you have everything in the warehouses, every other vendor was shut down, every other store was shut down, e-commerce stores were shut down because the vendors were not operating. And we had a plus point on all of these vendors, on all of these e-commerce players. So we converted this formula of express delivery, of delivering in 24 hours, to delivering during lockdown. So then the express delivery meant delivering during lockdown. So we came up with this plan, and it worked out really amazing, because we had nearly everything in our stock, whether it be a phone or a LED, everything. In the first week, we understood that people wanted healthcare products more, or they were focusing more on the supermarket side. And we have these two categories as well. We are one of the four e-commerce players who have the license to sell pharmaceutical products online. So we had a full-size pharmacy having 45,000 SKUs in that category. And of course, we had a connection with all the leading pharmas. So we had every sort of sanitizers, every sort of healthcare products or masks, or even the 3M mask. Even by now, Telemart is the only e-commerce company to have who are dealing with who are dealing with the 3M official distributor in Pakistan. So we have the complete range of 3M as well. So when people were not able to find the N95 mask, that was the recommended mask by the World Health Organization, Telemart was the only e-commerce company that was having that. So we were doing wonders in numbers with that category in healthcare and supermarket. But when when the lockdown was dragging down, it helped us grow even more, because we in the first 2 weeks, people were focusing more on the needs, more than these, because they were having an idea that yes, the lockdown would end soon. So they were not going towards the luxury part. Telemart has always focused since its inception. We celebrated 6 years yesterday only. So since the last 6 years, we were only focusing on the luxury part of the business, because we had nearly every luxury brand of the world that people wanted. And we were about to launch 55 global brands, the luxury brands, including Versace, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Prada, Armani, in Pakistan exclusively. And by now as well, we have Ferrari, BMWs, everything in place. So for us, the major shift that we took was moving from luxury to the needs section, because we understood that when you are shutting down every other retail store, people do have needs, people do want products at home. And we were the only e-commerce company operating in that kind of scenario. We had a fleet of our riders as well in Karachi, so we were delivering urgently as well. So, and even the courier partners that we were working in were operational. They were facing a bit of delays, and these days they are facing more and more delays these days, but yes, they are operational. So we thought of working on the needs section of the customer, that what are the customers wanting now, and what will a customer need when he's sitting at home. So first we thought of coming up with indoor and outdoor games. That was a click for us. Then we came up with toys for the kids, because kids are sitting at home. We don't have schools. Even I have two daughters sitting at home. They have nothing to do. So we came up with a toys plan, and then it also clicked up. So we are coming up with different plans, and every other plan was clicking up. And then coming towards the Ramzan section, we made a category out of Ramzan, where we have every other product that you need in Ramzan, whether it be a date or a janamaz or a tasbih, everything at our platform, which was not meant to be on our platform before the COVID-19 situation. But yes, now we do have these kind of products as well. Then we turn towards the Eid clothing as well, because when people are sitting at home and they don't have access to the retail, they do need clothes for the Eid, or the chappal for the Eid, or every other thing for the Eid. So we also made a studio out in our office for this reason. And now we are full-fledged studio in our office, where we are having an Eid collection shot. And Eid collection is also doing wonders. So we are shifting, we have seen a major shift in our business, moving from luxury to the needs section. And now we're just thinking every day that what will a customer need when he's sitting at home right now. So thinking up as a customer and doing wonders. So we have seen a major growth of 30 or 40x per day in terms of orders and revenue that we are doing these days. And even in a case of e-commerce company is meant to survive on the marketing side of the business. But since the last 30 days, Telemart is not running a single penny of ad on the social media, and even then the organic sales are touching 30 or 40x. And in this kind of scenario, nobody was thinking to make a business operational, or they're not even running business. And Telemart held a full-fledged campaign, a birthday bash campaign, getting up celebrities from across the world and then pushing it through social media as well. So this was the first time we had a campaign in such kind of scenario, and then running no budgets, no ads, and then also getting revenue shooting up.
That's great. Ahmed, there's a lot of stuff you've done over there and a lot of changes you've made. So Apoorv, any quick comments from you on this one?
Quick comments, yeah. So I think my conclusion of the discussion is Ahmed is a good all-weather friend to keep, whether we have pandemic or not. So I kind of stress on that. From my perspective, I think from WebEngage's standpoint, considering our businesses are global and not as local, I would say the first word that comes to my mind is we were in denial. We were absolutely in denial for first couple of weeks, because what happens is like there's a region that can shut because of some geopolitical, because of some sort of crisis, humanitarian, could be a disease, could be some sort of any sort of a medical health problem, anything of that sort, right? But I've never heard of, at least I'm 30 and I've never heard of a world shutting down. Like, when no one has an answer, when out of 7.5 billion people, 50% of the world shuts and stays inside the house, period. So we were in denial, and personally, I was definitely in denial. We had expansion planned. We were opening offices in a couple of countries. We had a trip planned up for conferences, and any go-to-market for any country or any expansion will have conferences, have exhibitions that you're a part of as team and so on. So we were supposed to travel to MENA, a couple of countries. We're supposed to travel to Southeast Asia, a couple of countries. So we were in denial. We were opening up offices. We were pretty much talking about how to close rents, how to get, sign up a few legal agreements, sign up, or get some other things in place from legal compliance, all of those sort of standpoint. And here we were like, hey, man, there's a pandemic in the world, and everything. And it was like, when you walk into a building and there's those lights with sensors, as you start walking in, the lights either start switching on or switching off, right? It was like this, like there's a country shut, there's another country shut, there's a country shut, and there's a country shut. So no one had an idea, and we were absolutely in denial, as Muneeb said, and I think as Naureen said, or, we had no idea how to go about it, right? And at the end of the day, we as a business are dependent on consumer businesses, right? If you make revenue, if there is if you're growing as business, if you can deliver your supply of goods and services, or do your local logistics or your payments, that's when we can help you. If the business come to a standstill, I don't know what do we do. So I think the first thought after this came to us was the fact that while we are an online company and, whatever our work strength is across offices, we are used to the work from home culture and concept, but we definitely did not know how to put our entire workforce online back at homes. We had no clue, absolutely not. So I think that was a second struggle. Will we actually be able to service our customers? Because when you're sitting in offices and few of your teams are online, that's a separate thing. Now the entire team is online. So, so do we have a proper business continuity plan? We had. Has it been tested? All of that things came into picture, right? Apart from that, I think the third thing that hit us was the fact that a lot of our customers, the existing contracts and customers, had their businesses come down to zero transactions and revenues. A lot of them. A lot of retail, there was no sale. What do we do? How do I pay you? How do I first pay my own salaries to my own employees, right? So I think that was a big eye-opener, right? Suddenly there's big numbers happening and suddenly there's zero, right? And then what do you do now? How do you ask someone to pay you because they have zero business, right? Would we have more customers coming in next? Would our existing customers pay to us? So I think these were a few things of the way we were. thankfully we're having a conversation, so we've survived. We're growing as well. That's I think that's a very honest perspective of where we stand. We're growing. I think a lot of our customers are with us. We're helping them out, I think. And it's just business. It's not business as usual, but I think we've taken a step back and now we're taking a step further. So that's where we stand as business. Thank you.
Great. So Muneeb, so Naureen was very detailed in terms of what she's done with respect to changing and pivoting the business model. Ahmed also, massive number of changes. Mohsin and Muneeb, I'd love to hear from the two of you. What have you done, or what have you been able to do? Because it's also a matter of being able to do, right? Muneeb, I mean, with respect to logistics, I mean, two guys on a bike is not allowed. You're a bike taxi. How do you see this happening, and do you see things opening up? What do you think can be done to start salvaging the situation, or is it something you're looking at all, or you're just waiting for things to open up?
I mean, so we took this time to build a lot of product features around the logistics category, which we never focused on, frankly. And why did we not focus on them? Just didn't have the time. You know, our other business was growing so rampantly and month on month that we just didn't spend the time to build certain product features out. So we spent the last 2 months building those features. And hopefully they'll come off use once this lockdown ends. But are we thinking of completely pivoting? No, absolutely not. I mean, the reality is that, listen, if the lockdown prevails forever, the economies will crumble and there will be civil war, right? And I think we're at that stage now, like literally. I think at least for, countries who are poor, like Pakistan. I think, the fact that you have a partial lockdown or the coming of Ramzan has actually been a bit of a blessing for the state because, they've sort of been able to balance their positioning. But it's just not sustainable. I mean, frankly speaking, I think at one point we've just got to take this decision that we're 220 million people. In the last 2 months, you have 100,000 people who've died. Have more people come to life in the last 2 months? And what is the ratio there? And ultimately, it needs to boil down to capitalism, because if we don't start thinking like this, what will ultimately happen is that, these countries will never be able to come back and reemerge. It's easier for Western countries to print money, right? Because there's really no one, you're just printing money. You're not really worried about inflation. Interest rates have historically been at the lowest ever. You can print money, right? But the state out here hasn't really been printing money. So neither have they been printing money, nor have they, had a complete curfew. So I think at one point you've got to end this lockdown and just live with a certain percentage of people who will perhaps die, and hope that is a small enough number. And when things go back to normal, people have to move. And if people have to move, our product, which, to be candid, pre this lockdown was one of the most exciting products in the country, and this whole category was the most exciting category in the world, right? Let's be honest, it's been the most exciting category. So I think when the world comes to a standstill and people are in prison, sure, e-commerce may have moderate uptick, but when people get out of their cages, transport and logistics will come back.
I think transport and logistics remain infrastructure, right? So everything else is something which essentials and then optionals, and then there's infrastructure. And transport and logistics technically serves as infrastructure in whatever way you look at it. Mohsin, your thoughts on what happened, man?
Okay, so
and what did you do?
With this lockdown, I still think that the government have two options: either the death of the people or death of the economy. And
if there'll be a death of economy, then Muneeb is right. There'll be a civil war in countries like us, and still I see a lot of people be suffering from these lockdowns, and eventually government has to open this lockdown. Now, with us primarily on the business side, our business went down to 30%. Like 2 3 days of shutdown, we were about 30%. Now we are coming back, but we tried to do a lot of stuff, especially on the CSR side. We started delivering for Risk Foundation. We started delivering for Robin Hood Army like institutions, and on the other side, we quickly launched. We scaled up our grocery section. We partnered up with more grocery stores. We partnered up with more pharmacies, and now these two verticals, which were less than 1% in the first week of March, they now hold around 25% of our total business, and delivering about 25% of grocery within 30 minutes is like. So I had this experience. I was sitting with my contact center team, and we got an order, and I called the customer and asked that, okay, you ordered this, how you came to know about us? It was like, I was exploring your app and came to know, would you deliver this in 48 hours? And that was a surprise for him, that when I say no, like you'll get your cigarettes delivered, or you'll get your essentials delivered in next 30-35 minutes. So we tried to sell this concept of quick commerce, and like we pivoted our business. So now as the restaurants are opening as well, so our food business is growing. So these two main initiatives which we took around 1.5 months ago is now growing, and we think that now after, and like Ramadan is normally bad for the restaurant industry itself, and after Ramadan, I think that we can pick the same pace we were in March, and the next year would be we should target the same as we were targeting before the lockdown. And I think now the lockdown should help our business, because now there's a lot of support from the government as well. They are promoting the online deliveries. They're trying to do campaigns to make people stay at home, and as a business, we're trying to play a part with that. I think you're mute, Imtiaz.
Sorry, thank you so much. Yeah. Quick question for you, Naureen. Please tell us a bit more. I mean, you mentioned that you were lending more initially, you were lending more to individuals, and then you've pivoted slightly towards smaller businesses. And now working on the working capital space of things, right? Could you tell us a bit more about what kind of businesses are these? Are these shopkeepers? Are these micro entrepreneurs, like people in mohallas who open small shops? Also, with the recent launch of the secure transactions registry, how does that help you? Is it affecting you in any way? Are you a part of that in some way? Could you just walk us through that component?
Yeah, well, so to clarify, these are still individuals, but these are individuals who are engaged in micro businesses. So yeah, technically micro entrepreneurs, as well as people who are working in smaller businesses. For example, one of them, as I mentioned earlier, working capital lending to Uber, for the Uber delivery drivers. What we're doing there is, so for Uber delivery, these motor drivers usually have a liquidity gap, to buy that, to front the grocery purchases that they have to make on behalf of the customers. Even something, something as basic as 3,000, 4,000 rupees is a big amount for them to front. So this is something that, would actually enable them to start rolling their business. And it's actually a fast cash velocity cycle, because the funds are then received directly at the point of COD from, the customers. So what that essentially meant was that this working capital lending is actually helping these people to start their daily delivery channels and just build upon that to build their businesses or they build their incomes. On the other hand, we've also started looking at merchants, which are retail shop owners. And on that front, we've started off with lending for airtime purchases because that forms the bulk of the liquidity requirement for these merchants. So that's something that we've started focusing on. So for now, these are the two areas we're focusing on. And, the focus is primarily to go through our partners who actually control these, it's more of B2B2C, structure, whereby we're going through our partners to these consumers at the end.
Okay.
So that not only meets their working capital needs, which is much more needed in this time to get the ball rolling, but also, it's also lesser risky. In terms of STR, this is something since we're not lending directly to the businesses. It's not something that for now at least is of use to us. But in the future, if we do decide to, it's something that definitely might help us. For now, but not for now.
Okay, Ahmed, you've got your balls rolling right now. Business is great. How are you planning to keep it continuing once the lockdown lifts? What are your plans to make it stick there? Do you have a plan in place? Because right now people are uncomfortable going out for any reason. This is closed, that is closed. So hey, let's order online. And lo and behold, Ahmed's getting the orders. But when things open up, how is Ahmed keeping them there?
See, we have been, people have been asking us that if the lockdown ends, whether you guys would be getting these customers back, because these days they don't have an option. The same question that you made, that these days they don't have an option to go anywhere else and to shop from Telemart only. So what I believe is when a customer is in need or a person is in need of something, and you provide them at the best price, at their place, with the best service in place, that customer will never go away. And of course, in e-commerce, customer loyalty is a bit low. We do understand that customers are not loyal towards an e-commerce company. They're more loyal towards the price or the service that they are getting. So we have been focusing on that part of our business because we are lagging in service these days. We are lagging in service because we work with different partners, whether it be a courier partner or a payment partner. And even the development team that we have is now staying at home and working. Even the marketing team is staying home, and marketing team has nothing to do as well these days, other than making a post and pushing us on the social media. So we are just working on the service side these days so that every customer is catered in the right manner, because if a customer is not catered in the right manner, then only we will drop that customer out of our nets and move them towards the retail section. Also, we are working more on the retail section as well, because when the retail will come up again, we are facing a backlash on the retail side of our company, where every of our retail stores closed, and hopefully they'll be opening it from tomorrow only. So we are working on the SOPs, we are working on the customer service, because if you provide, again, I will make this statement that if you provide customer right service, right price, providing them products in this kind of scenario where nobody else is catering to them, you can make loyal customers and you can make them long-term customers.
Okay, great. Muneeb, what are your plans on bringing back demand once things go back to normal? Because, I mean, once things open up, we'll have the other ones also popping up once again. We have 2 bus companies who were competing, they've disappeared. I don't know if they're coming back or not, but we do know Uber and Careem will be coming back. How are you working on bringing back demand, or at least to the same extent? And do you have a plan in place for scaling up on that front?
Well, we're working on a plan, but this is the $1 million question, right? Because what's happened is that for about 2 months or so, or at least a month and a half, your recurring customers, and this is more important obviously for on-demand businesses who have daily customers as opposed to e-commerce. Like in e-commerce, You'll probably come back to the platform once every 2-3 months. Right? And you're not going to be buying every day unless, Chinese shoppers are different, right? Taobao shoppers are different, but like in general, like you won't buy a brand new phone like every day, right? So with us, because the customer had a daily touch point, we've got to figure out that how do we get a monthly active customers who were on our platform and had a frequency of usage back, right? Now, how has retargeting worked in the past? In the past, when there was a lot of money that everybody had, you would throw money, right? You would throw promos and you would throw discounts to lure customers that you've acquired, and you would reacquire them. And that's what the telcos also do, right? The telcos may have acquired a customer, but they keep reacquiring and reacquiring and reacquiring the customer over and over again. And then hope that basically somewhere along the line they would stick. But I think the complexity in retargeting or reactivating dormant users is going to be around the fact that you may have had sticky customers in the past, but you've got to get them past the hurdle, right? And the hurdle may be a multitude of things. So one hurdle is cost, right? So I think from a cost perspective, Baikia is going to be in a more advantageous position. And the reason it's going to be in a more advantageous position is that as recession kicks in and people's disposable income contracts, right, their ability to hop in a car is going to diminish, right? And so they would gravitate more towards cheaper modes of transport. Now, what are cheaper modes of transport, right? And of course, the assumption here is that Uber and Careem are not throwing the insane discounts that they've been throwing for the last couple of years. That windfall is going to subside, for customers. So as they migrate downwards into cheaper modes of transport, what modes do they have, right? They've got the traditional auto rickshaw, right? Or they've got the motorbike taxi category. And of course, they've got the bus category, but, people who have traveled in cars, particularly air-conditioned cars, are unlikely to move back to buses, right? And of course, you can say they may move back to contract air-conditioned buses. It's possible, but I do feel that any confined environment, whether it be in a 16-seater bus or in an air-conditioned car where you're, breathing recirculated air, and touching things that other people have touched, I think is going to be a bit of a health hazard. And I think from a customer perception, it is important for Baikia and similar, platforms who are in this space to convince customers that it's actually safer to sit on the back of a motorbike behind someone who has a visor, and behind the visor is also a face mask, right? And if you can carry your own helmet, it's like carrying these health shields, which will allow you to be safer than you would be in sharing a recirculation sort of contained environment. So I think that PR is important. Now, of course, you can post a lot of you can do a lot of ads, right? But I don't think that customers are even in the mood to be sold to, right? Of course, fashion brands have been doing so, and I'm sure even around electronics in the lead up to Eid, given it is the holiday season, and people would like to perhaps buy if they have the disposable income. I think that window is very short, maybe another week or so. And after that, I think people's propensity to be slammed with discounts and things to buy, I don't think they'll react too well for it. Right? So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done around PR. We, for one, will be focusing on PR. And companies need to start thinking more about, how well have they tagged their customer audience within their own databases, right? So to be candid, I think, most companies are very, very weak at it, right? They're extremely weak at identifying, the recency, the frequency, the cumulative revenue from a particular customer ID. They're very weak at it, right? And then, of course, they'll get like a BI analyst to essentially come in and put some Excel spreadsheets together. But given that these things change every day, right? Like I can send you a notification and you may have been dormant for the past 30 or 45 days, but you may suddenly, switch, right? Ironically, device IDs or tracking device IDs has become more problematic than it was in the past. Google historically used to allow you to store IMEI numbers, which allowed you better tracking. And so right now, I think they've figured out that companies like Baikia were already using them for understanding their customer base, and they want to make it more of a black box, which is fine and fair because we use their platforms for customer acquisition and reacquisition. So I think engineering towards marketing is going to start becoming very, very important. Right? And no one here is an engineer. I don't think anyone is, but most people in marketing teams don't think of engineers being deployed to marketing. And so for us, we already had engineers deployed to marketing, and I think we'll have now more engineers deployed to marketing. And I don't mean just BI people, I mean engineers, like real engineers who can, slice up data, in a database. And I think intelligent retargeting is going to be the norm going forward, which is great news for WebEngage. And the reason for that is that the propensity for businesses to acquire new customers consistently with a leaky bucket is going to diminish. Okay? Because I think they'll be a lot more careful. I think investor patience for bleeding continuously around acquisition, reacquisition is going to also diminish. So everyone will start to look at performance marketing from a cohort perspective a lot deeper than they have in the past. Historically, we've just not focused too much because there was enough money. And there were avenues for cheap customer acquisition, or reacquisition, which may not be the case going forward.
Apoorv, do you have a few comments to add on the space of retention, and add on to some of the stuff that Muneeb just added in terms of intelligent customer consumer marketing, consumer touchpoint management, because I think this is an area you could add some value to.
Super. Thank you, Muneeb, for the shout out. I hope, as you say, that business kind of increases for us, and I see that as well. So let me quote some stats for you guys, right? As per Microsoft, I think in one of the latest reports, Microsoft said that in a 30-day window, probably you can consider March, or I think leave out March, just get in April. The digital transformation that we were supposed to attain in 2 years globally was done in 30 days alone. Bang on 30 days, and across sectors, right? Whether you talk about voice on internet, education going on internet, as Muneeb said, like micro deliveries, payments, transportation, e-com, suddenly, I'll quote another factor, right? A stat which says that in US alone, and used to average about 14 to 15% of the overall penetration of sales used to come from e-commerce, right? Today, the present stat is 27%. And this is what, 2-3 months down the line, 2 months probably down the line. So I think there are goods and bads in this. I think the bads, as I think Muneeb also mentioned, fashion. I think fashion is going to contract as a domain because as you're not just going to start buying. It's going to be hard to actually get customers out to malls. And I'm with Muneeb on that. I think there are two large things that we need to do, right? One, I think a lot of people are going to buy on trust, and whether in terms of experience, right? When you go out to a mall, how do you enable a contactless payment, a contactless experience in terms of browsing or discovering products? If you're traveling, how do you ensure contactless sort of travel, right? Whether it be Uber, whether it be Bikea, or with anybody else, right? How do you do all of this contactless? Because you can die because of the pandemic and the spread and so on and so forth. So that's one thing, right? Getting ready from that standpoint, and then after you're ready, both electronically and both in the offline world, how do you ensure that the customer trusts you? You might say, hey, I have contactless delivery, I have contactless transportation, but why do I believe you? Seeing is believing. So that PR or using your own CRM to actually start educating your customers about what are the initiatives you're trying to take. I think that's very important. Point number two that I'd like to really make is a lot of people will go online for sure. So, rightly said, right? RFM and a lot of other things, but coming back, I'll quote some examples of things like WeWork that's happened in the world. There are a lot of people that have listed businesses for IPOs on stock exchanges, electronic technology businesses. They have not really got the valuations, or they've not got the stock rates that they wanted to, right? So there's been a lot of this, So as Muneeb also mentioned, around a subtle context around VC money, right? So money is not going to be thrown immediately at people. So you're going to be cash strapped. You got to play bootstrapping. You got to hold on to cash that you have. I think Naureen mentioned that how she's trying to save money. You got to save up money. Please throw away excessive tools that you have that don't make sense. Any sort of tools, right? Some people will shut offices. There will be people who go back to working remotely and save money on office front, right? So a lot of these sort of things will happen. So I think one piece is, understanding that post-COVID, there are things that are going to change. Money is not going to be easily available. Please save what you have. Please be, prudent of how you spend. And also, I think a lot of our businesses, I think at least me and a lot of people on the panel, are technology businesses online. In a long run, I think all of us will see some sort of benefit. But can we get to the benefit side of it is how we deal with things. And definitely, I think for WebEngage and across the domain that I've seen, people have cut down on their marketing budgets, right? They're not spending on acquisition as much. Surprisingly, CRM has become one of the largest ways of communicating with a customer. As Muneeb rightly mentioned, you can't just start sending communication to people. You can't just be like, hey, take a coupon and acquire. You gotta be aware of the situation is bad. People are dying. You gotta be empathetic, right? You gotta ensure that you don't rub your customer in the wrong way. What sort of tonality are you using? And again, how you packaging your schemas, right? You don't have to often offer a coupon to get a customer. There are a lot of things that you can do nicer for your existing customers. As Naureen mentioned, she's trying to give out loans to micro entrepreneurs or people who don't have the money but have the right sort of a credit check. She's trying to do all of that. That's helping and going out to an existing base of customers, because if you don't have a flow of money inside the economy, whether it be India, Pakistan, US, if there is no flow of money inside, how will somebody spend? So people need to have that money. You need to reach out to your existing customers in the right way. Be prudent about your communication. And yes, you got to be smarter with it. So yes, definitely a lot of factors that these guys said, I kind of completely agree. And I'm seeing this across regions, not only just Southeast Asia or, India, Pakistan, Middle East. We're seeing similar trends across, right? People are not spending on digital acquisition. Ads are not being, you're not paying for ads today. You're paying for, you're trying to make sure, I think three categories of, before I end this, three categories of businesses, right? One who've been worse hit, like some businesses will shut and they'll cease to exist. That's a reality we all have to live with. There's a mild sort of hit businesses which have taken a small duration of hit and they will come back over a period of time. And they're businesses which are growing very well, right? But in all, what I want to say is it's a good thing for digital businesses because digital transformation has kickstarted. And from here, I think how you talk to your customers, how do you engage with them, how do you kind of bring in trust, and how you deliver your services with an offline, online sort of a model that Bikea has or any other business like Ahmed's business has, will change how people buy further. But definitely retail will take a hit. We'll see a lot of people coming online, and that will go on to payments, that'll go on to everybody. Everybody as an ecosystem will be benefit. That's my sort of a take, Imtiaz.
Great, thank you so much. Quickly to summarize the discussion right now before we open up questions, we have multiple points here. One, let's look at intelligent messaging across the board, start understanding our customers in greater detail. Let's look at moving businesses and transforming businesses, or at least opening up, expanding businesses. I don't think what Naureen's done is pivoted. I think what she's done is expanded, because as things normalize, she'll be back to her normal business as well. So technically, she's expanded. Muneeb's added on a ton of services, which a few products upgrades, which he hasn't had a time to. So technically, Muneeb spent the time expanding, right? So when things open up, it's going to help boost up the existing business. Emma's done a great job expanding. Mohsin still trying to figure out in a bit. There's a lot happening on that end with respect to the business, but I'm sure they've added a ton of products and features as well, which they haven't had the opportunity to earlier, as they were focusing on their core business and growth. And I think it's about time the business has kind of started shifting towards meeting needs which are more aggressive, as he mentioned, focusing more now on instant commerce and meeting instant needs. I think in general, this has generally been overall the theme of the conversation. And of course, there's as Apoorv and as Muneeb and even Naureen said, you have to be cognizant of the fact that customers are going through challenges. They're going through tough times financially and emotionally. It's a very stressful time for most businesses, for most customers. A lot of people have been laid off in most businesses. So you must keep that in mind as how people may react or respond to communications. So in general, there's that. And now we're going to start picking up some questions which we have from our audiences. And some of these are very interesting. The first one is kind of mind-blowing. I'd like every one of you to take a dig at this. How can you make a business COVID-19 proof? Let me summarize this business. How do you make a business pandemic proof? A very quick 1-minute responses from each of you. This is the most interesting question. Ahmed, you go first.
I guess nobody can make anything proof. So you cannot hold back things from COVID-19 or any other pandemic in the world. But being more aggressive and being more flexible in your business models and a business strategy is something that will take you off from the pandemic situation. And that is what we have done and we have faced.
Naureen.
If I knew the answer to that very well, I think I would have been probably one of the most successful companies here. But I think, to be honest, we at Tez have always felt that at the end of the day, you should be true to your values and what the customer needs really are. So, if you can bring in value to the customer in terms of just focusing on how they can be served best, whatever that change might be in the economy or the environment, I think you can actually come out as winners in this.
Mohsin?
So I think in general, as there was no history or there was no record like how to deal with the situation, so that was like people tried to pivot themselves. But there are a lot of businesses who made a lot of money in this pandemic, like the mask makers or the sanitizers makers. So in general, you need to be flexible and agile, and you need to see the situation where it's heading. And as Ahmed said, that you need to be quick, fast to make decisions. And sometimes you make good decisions, sometimes you make bad decisions. And I think like there are a lot of businesses who didn't make any decisions in this whole situation. So you have to make a decision.
Muneeb, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think digital services did well, right? And tomorrow, if there's another pandemic or there's another lockdown, they will continue to do well. So I think all of us need to be working on building some level of redundancy, right? So we are by default a business that has a touch point at all times with a customer, right? And so perhaps it's time for us and some others as well to think about other parts of our platform, which can be a digital service, perhaps. Because whether it's Zoom or whether it's payments, ultimately they're all just digital. You don't have to do anything but sit at home and just press a few buttons to activate a service. So I think we need to start thinking more about that.
True. How has the situation affected your marketing mix in general? Now, my understanding is most of you may have pulled your marketing down to a great extent. But Ahmed, are you using any paid channels at all at this point in time? Are you off them completely aside from your birthday campaign? Is there anything you're using at this point in time?
We are using nothing. We have zero
Okay.
budgets in place these days. Zero
Okay.
budgets.
Is any one of you spending money on paid customer acquisitions at this point in time? Mohsin, no.
Very less. So
Sorry?
very less.
Very less, yeah. And if you were to say, when you say
Yes.
very less, you mean 10%, 5%?
Yeah, 10%, and I think we're more expensive than before. So we have been focusing on services. So like in general, we have started charging delivery fee, which we were not charging before.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, we have cut down our marketing budget to about 70%.
Okay. Muneeb?
Yeah, so we are not doing any Google or Facebook marketing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, over the next few weeks, we will be allocating some money towards towards our brand budget, right? Because there is an opportunity for a reach through other channels, which historically have not been primary acquisition channels. Because I think we've got to start thinking of these channels as an acquisition channel and a brand channel, right? So LinkedIn, for example, is a brand channel. I think we are going to start taking a look at that a lot more seriously. PR, and of course, influencers, because influencers, even during the lockdown, did reach a lot of people. So I think at least short term, we will continue to not spend on paid channels that are legacy channels like Facebook and Google. I don't think it's. I think at some point we have to. The question is, how will we? Will we be paying to reacquire users, or will we be paying to acquire new users? And I think ultimately it'll boil down to a decision around cost. Because the reason why historically we have traditionally not focused a lot on retargeting is that retargeting costs were actually higher than the acquisition cost of new customers, despite a leaky bucket. So all of this needs to be weighed from an acquisition reacquisition perspective.
Okay, Naureen, two questions for you. One, with respect to your customer acquisition, the same one which I've asked everyone. And another one which I'd like to add is, have you guys received more loan requests over the past couple of months due to COVID-19? Has that happened? Have you seen a surge in demand at all? With respect to the same audiences, not respect to the pivot towards micro businesses.
Well, I'll answer the first. Well, currently we have, we're not spending anything on marketing. That said, we are focusing on different sorts of brand building or otherwise financial literacy. So we're working with the Knowledge Platform and JICA on, serving a series of financial literacy campaign in this period, which we feel will, cater to user engagement in terms of the different products that we are offering. So it's going to be a two-pronged approach two advantages that we will be attaining out of this. That said, going forward, there's another thing, so as Muneeb also mentioned, and I think I'd differ a bit in terms of pace. I think in terms of converting a customer, definitely we feel that acquiring a new customer costs about 5 times more than converting a recurring customer. So definitely, I think our focus for now, in terms of the other products that we're also catering to, will be on converting these recurring customers. We have a base of over 500,000 customers who've downloaded our app already. So I think it's a low-hanging fruit that we'll be targeting. And what we've done in the past has been social media and SMS marketing. But interestingly, it'll be interesting to see how the changing consumer patterns will actually affect the profile that we've been catering to. And only the future will tell if the profiles hold the same, because as we've seen, and what we feel is that consumer patterns probably might not hold true in a post-COVID world. Even in terms of credit underwriting, for example, someone who was a good customer, even if they have a capacity to repay, they might not have the willingness to repay. So it's going to be a very interesting way of how we even segmenting these customers and targeting them. And that's something we'll be focusing on. So it's going to be a mix of all of these. Another thing I think that's going to be working for us and we'll be focusing on in not only the near but also the medium term would be working with our partners. So we've got banks and telcos aligned, other consumer-oriented businesses as well, where we will be sharing some of their marketing budgets. So I think that will be a good approach for us as well, where we can target their customers via their acquisition platform. So that's something that will help us reduce our costs on that front. And that will be a focus to bring that cost down and also enhance the conversions that we so focus on. So that's how we are looking at the marketing side of things. I think another interesting thing that we're still looking into is daytime streaming has gone up by about 40% ever since March. It'll be interesting to see how the focus for most companies is going to go towards that, because I think the point now for most companies are even spending on ad spend will be on refocusing. A lot of those eyeballs now are on those daytime streaming sites or even gaming sites, for example. So it'll be interesting to see how we actually evolve, our marketing campaigns in the future as well. So that's to answer your first question. As to the second question, yes, definitely we've seen a spike in demand. And I think the demand will continue. Unfortunately, it's tough to not assign limits during this time. We've been very, very selective in terms of who've been lending to. So that hasn't been easy. Of course, it takes a hit on your reviews on your app store. But it's something we definitely do see that trajectory coming up in terms of demand for, borrowing with disposable incomes going down. And this will continue to happen in the future as we see it.
I'd like everyone to take 1 minute on a very quick question. And we're going to start with Ahmed on this one. Now that we've all gone through this right now, if you had the last 45 to 60 days to do over, what would you do differently?
A very difficult question for a person like me who has done a very, very much, a lot amount of things. And we have been working on the capacity. Yes, we will be working more on the warehousing part as well of the business, because we do understood in this scenario that warehousing is something, and giving customers with an express delivery tag products is something that the customers want, and customer wants us to focus on. So, and in this kind of scenario, yes, we did lack initially in pushing up the brands that were not accepting us. The reason for not reaching up more and more brands to get their products on board in the express side was that we didn't have time to look other than the operation side of the company at first, because we were piled up. For the first 3 days, we were in a lockdown because the courier company were not operating. So when we came up after on the 4th day, and we saw the number of orders, the confirmation in Pakistan, the cash on delivery prevails more than the prepayment part. So the prepayment orders are very easy to confirm. and very easy to dispatch. Whereas the cash on delivery part, we do have to make a confirmation call or a confirmation message. So we have been digitizing much, and we hope to digitize more and making things even more easy for us to handle and for the customer to handle.
Muneeb?
Yeah, sorry about that. So I think I wouldn't really change a lot. I think we've been the last 30 days, 30 to 45 days, we have been fairly productive. I think we've been able to also identify recurring costs that we've tried to optimize. For example, around maps. A big part of our expenses were maps. A big part of our expenses were around servers, cloud servers. We've reduced our dependency on them quite a bit because of a lot of the, work that we've done over the last 30 to 45 days. Frankly, I mean, beyond the fact that we've lost our business, which is obviously terrible, I think the last 45 days have also been a bit of a blessing in disguise for us. And we have taken it as an opportunity. I think what is going to be more testing, however, is going to be the next 45 days. And how do you get back to 100% or 120% of where you were in February? I think that's what's going to be testing, right? And that is what we worry about more than we really worry. I mean, we don't really worry that much about the last 45 days. I think the last 45 days we've been good as a business. We've been working on improving our deficiencies.
Mohsin?
So I think we're focusing on more partnerships as we don't want to spend a lot of money, as Naureen said as well. They're focusing on partnerships, and I think we'll be focusing on more partnerships. And I think in the next 45 days we'll be more focusing on educating the customer on the safety. And if you're able to do that, and if you're able to send this message across, I think we'll be able to grow much faster, like we had planned in 2020, despite of the last 45 days. And I think as Muneeb said as well, there's nothing to be worried on the last 45 days. If you're productive, if you've done some changes to your business, and also on the customer behavior side, if you have a plan for how to spend the next 45 days in the year, I think there's nothing to worry about the last 45 days.
Naureen? If you could do the last 45 days once again, what would you do?
I think we responded very well. So I'd actually look at this in two ways. One is, as Muneeb said, the response phase, and the other one is the recovery phase. In terms of the response phase, I think we've done fairly well. Definitely a blessing in disguise. Definitely a lot of things that we've learned to streamline ourselves. And I think one thing that came out of this was a focus towards a fail-fast innovation approach. That's something that we've really focused on during this time, whereby, even in terms of the products that we've now expedited within the Tez platform, we've just focused on very nimble, bare-bone products to understand, what would accrue benefits faster, and just cut down losses. So I think so we don't want to see that as a failure. Rather, it's like a feedback loop. So I think that's the fail-fast innovation culture, something we've definitely tilted more towards in these last 30 to 45 days. And I think this is something that we're going to take away and keep for the next 45 days or so. Furthermore, I think recovery is going to be tough. I think there has to be a lot that has to be put into it. And I think the future lockdown state and how we come out of it as an economy will really, steer how things move in the future.
Okay. One more question that I wanted to throw in is, Naureen, are you looking at any strategic partnerships that Days might be able to materialize? Just like OlaDoc and JazzCash just did something and launched a telehealth app. Any developments on that horizon? And Muneeb, another question for you. Are you looking at female riders to help bring more women on the biking day, on the biking on the bike taxi category? So whoever wants to answer first. Naureen, why don't you go first?
So yes, we're always open to partnerships, and with our insurance vertical, we've actually getting live with an entire health suite, whereby we've not only gone with the traditional insurance companies, including EFU, Jubilee, and TPL, but we've also partnered with WebDoc. So for doctor consultations online. So that's something we'll be going live with as well. But other than that, we're open to a lot of other partnerships where we're talking with the likes of One Load for merchant lending, or other people within the vicinity of the fintech field. So we're always open to partnerships.
Great.
Yeah, so I'll sort of just follow suit on what Naureen talked about. I think we are also trying to expand our API capability so that we can partner more with other platforms and other services than we have in the past. So I think we're also working towards that. In general, whether it's women or basically, I think. Listen, I mean, people think of Bikea as a platform that can only transport people on motorbikes. That's not true. We can start cars tomorrow. We can start rickshaws day after tomorrow. We can start any category any day. Why have we not done it? So if anyone in this audience has any idea how to make cars economical, and not just an idea, but an exact process of how to make cars or rickshaws, for that matter, economical, and where the unit economics are such where we don't have to bleed money, because we don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to burn in Pakistan, right? That competition has had. So I think if you have a solution for that, and a technical solution, and a journey mapping solution, and a product solution, we'd love to get you on board in any capacity. I think if you're an expert marketeer, from a strategy, and you understand databases or you understand content very well, we're also looking for senior people in marketing for Bikea. We're a slightly different organization where we have a mix of content strategy and then engineer. So whichever mode you can fix yourself in and be good at, we'd be happy to sort of bring you on board as well. But is there a short-term plan to bring women to be drivers on motorbikes? No, I mean, if this was Ahmedabad in India, a quarter of all or half of everyone on a scooty is a woman. It's not the case in Karachi. It's not the case in Lahore, right? And we can't change cultural behaviors that quickly, right? What we can do, of course, is we can start other vehicle categories that women are more comfortable with. So we can potentially even start the three-wheeler auto category or the car category, but someone has to convince us and explain to us how they'll ever be profitable, because we've been scratching our head around that.
Okay. The last question, Apoorv, came for you. So it's a very straight up question. Apparently from some small business person. How can WebEngage help multiple verticals at this point in time? Let's make it very quick before we wrap up. Let's take this as the last question.
Thank you for giving me a voice. I think how we can help, I think, is one, post-COVID or during COVID, right? I think there are two large focus areas that should be for any business, as per me, or what we do at our business. I think one is your own employees. I think they can take you wonders, as I think Muneeb mentioned, right? If you have a concept, come join me. I love to be a part of the journey, right? So I think your employees are one of your biggest assets and human resources, and I think we should be very clear about that. Number two is your existing customers, right? Because that's what's going to take you to next. As I think Naureen mentioned, it takes 1/5 the cost to make your customer repurchase your product or service as compared to what a new customer investment takes. That's their answer, right? Which means that with limited money pool, with people staying in your houses and not coming out as often as you'd want, servicing will have to come to people, then people come to products and services. That's how it's going to be in the near future. For that, I think you will have to talk and communicate with your people online, and you got to do it intelligently, right? I think Muneeb mentioned RFM that I've not forgotten, right? Recency, frequency, and monetary value, your cumulative value. That's should be one of your biggest focuses. How do you reactivate and convince your existing customer to spend on your service? And there is no better and more cost efficient and a faster ROI or mechanism than a CRM or a marketing automation platform that does it for you. And we're seeing this, right? We're seeing this across my customer, which is e-com, travel, hospitality, retail, BFSI, fintech, micro lending, securities. I can go on and on, right? Wherever we've gone. I think one thing that people haven't closed as budgets is CRM budgets. Emails are still active. SMSs or texts are still on. Push notifications are still going out. What people have cut down is excessive money that they were spending. As I think one of the panelists mentioned, about 70-80% of their budgets have been cut down. And what they're focusing on is their core customer base. So WebEngage lets you get onto a DIY dashboard, get on to understand how your customers are currently behaved in the past, how they behave in the future. Ensure that you can create smart, enriched, and engaging campaigns, personalized ones, across channels, automate quite a few of them, and then look at data of how things are evolving as you send and scale that bit. So I think that's how we help. And we have a smart team, I think, at the back end that we built in called servicing team, which basically is domain specific as well and also caters to markets. And we have Imtiaz, who's a partner, so he's based out of the Pakistan as a market. I think what we're essentially trying to do at this moment for our own existing customers or new customers, because no one has an absolute idea how this is going to be now or post, we're trying to work and bring that best practices knowledge across without taking names and saying this is how we can help you. These are the sort of use cases that you could run. These are the sort of segments that you should focus on. Bring at that consulting and help apart from the product to actually scale that bit. I think that's how we can help. And all the best to everybody. And it's tough. It's a troubled time, and I hope all of us come out of it. It's not easy. There's not one size fit or an answer for the problem that we have at hand. But we at WebEngage can definitely help from that standpoint of engagement, marketing automation, campaign management, CRM, analytics. I think that's predominantly where we come. You're on mute, Imtiaz.
Sorry, guys, I keep forgetting about that one. Thank you all very much for your time. Any last comments from anyone? Would you like to make anything? Would you like to state any closing comments that you'd like to make? Ahmed, why don't you go with you? If you have one, yes. If you don't have one, that's fine.
I think we had a very long discussion.
Yeah, it's been a long one. It's taken a bit longer than planned, yeah.
So I think I'll sort of first of all thank you, Apoorv, Imtiaz, for setting this up. It's very kind of you. I think all of us are now going to be planning and strategizing for our acquisition, reacquisition, retargeting initiatives. And for anyone in the audience or anyone who's watching this after this, if there's anyone who can really help around marketing strategy and analytics, both from an engineering perspective and a content perspective, we're hiring. So surprisingly, I think we're one of the only companies that's actually been hiring through the last 45 days, and we'll continue to be accelerating our hiring as well.
Great. Mohsin?
Yeah, we're also the company which is hiring. So I think on the on the audience side, if
if anyone can help us with the technology. And secondly, from anyone in the audience, I think if or the panelists, if we can collaborate, we should come forward. It's a time of collaboration and it's a time of partnership where we can leverage with each other expertise and help each other's business.
Great. Naureen?
Well, thank you, Imtiaz and Apoorv, for organizing this. I would, just like to request or ask, and offer anyone in the audience. So we are currently working on a concept note on how COVID has impacted consumer behaviors and patterns, be it along any line, be it supply chain, consumer baskets, any side, how it has impacted consumer behaviors. And, we're working with some international players to see how it can actually help digital financial inclusion in the future if there have been any segmentation changes. So anyone who's, who's working on it or has worked on data sources around it, be it census data or otherwise, we're happy to engage and see how we can work together.
Great, that sounds great. Anyone from the audience, if you feel that you guys can contribute, feel free to leave a comment in the chat or the Q&A session, and we'll be happy to patch you up with any of the speakers that you mentioned. Aside from that, we have a few more questions that we have lined up, but what we're going to do is we're going to just pass them to you guys over email. And we'd appreciate if you could take the time and just answer those, and then we just pass them on to the respondents. Thank you all very much for your time. This has been a great discussion. Have a great day. Thank you so much.